guys? Team Stamp West, Discraft Underground Captain. Super excited tonight. Of course, we got Alex. Alex, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. And we have one of our underground compadres. We got Mr. Nicholas Carl.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
We're doing good, Nick. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being here. As always, we want to remind people, give the video a thumbs up. Be sure you're subscribed, and we'll keep the content coming at you. We want to start things out kind of with our typical beginner question. How did you find disc golf?
So I found disc golf I was attending youth group, and one of my closest friends as of now, Matt Graham, was one of the youth leaders back then. And we were throwing a Frisbee just out in the parking lot one day, just having fun throwing it. And then he showed me the disc golf discs, and I was like, wow, this is actually kind of cool. So him, his brother Josh, myself, and a couple other people, we went out to Pyramids a couple minutes away from my house, played around, and I was awful because I think he had given me a nuke and some gateway disc that had a ton of dimples in the rim. I don't remember which one it was called, but it had
Diablo,
a cool
I think.
It might have been. It had a really cool die on it, but they went like 50 feet and then just tanked left.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is fun, but it's kind of annoying because I'm not good at it, which is how every person is when they start a new sport.
Yeah.
Cool thing about it, though, was I was pretty much just getting out of high school when I started playing. I was done playing basketball. I played baseball growing up. They were all team sports. And I think what I liked a lot about disc golf was it was just you. So if there was anyone to blame about your performance or your loss, it was yourself. And I thought that was pretty cool. So started getting into it more, started learning more of the plastic. And then he gave me this putter that was called like a straight line or something like that. I forget what it was, but it actually went straight and I could throw it 80 feet. Started throwing it 100 feet, just kept going and going and going. And then Matt would actually give me tips.
Nice.
And he told me about Monday night leagues over at Pyramids. It was a doubles league. And the first week I went there, I bought like a JLS. I bought a couple different discs that were just blue, pretty, easy to find, and to me, they flew pretty well. I bought a West Side Sword that was pitch black. It was awful, but it was like, that was my distance disc of choice.
Not advisable to buy a black disc for beginner players.
Yeah, definitely don't do that because you'll spend more time looking for it than actually throwing it.
Yeah.
So I think I had like 3 of those over the span of when they actually came out solid black. But so I went to league, Monday night league. I got paired up with this guy, George, who was kind of like an OG there, been playing for years. His kids were incredible athletes and they were just great players. And he taught me how to flick a putter just from like 100 feet and in, how accurate it was. And I remember that league, I threw one in from like 100 feet. It was like my first birdie by myself. It was my drive, my putt, sort of, kind of. And since then, I was pretty much hooked. He was a great guy. I got to meet a ton of the people at the Monday night leagues. They were all awesome and very welcoming because as a new player, you're awful. And all these people are playing for money. And so you would see like those super groups go out where it's like, oh my gosh, that's Jeremy and Kyle. Like they're totally going to win tonight.
Yeah.
And then I would get paired up with one of the best players, but I was one of the worst players. So I'm like, oh, no, I feel bad. But then I remember after like a month or 2 of playing, I got paired up with this dude, Justin, who was nasty, just really good snap of the wrist, really accurate. And we were playing with another doubles group. And this guy's father actually used to come around and hang out, walk around with us, just a really nice guy. And he was like, Justin, like, Nick is carrying you this week. And I remember I was just like, dude, like, I'm playing out of my mind. I was hitting like 30-foot straddle putts. I was killing. I was putting with a wizard back then when I finally started buying discs. And since then, I remember cashing. That was my first week. We got like 4th place out of 50 people.
Nice.
I cashed and I wasn't doing anything else. I had a couple jobs. I was working 2 jobs at the time, but I wasn't doing anything else. So I was like, why not just play disc golf? And just Matt kept me into it. Like Matt was kind of like, okay, I got to meet Matt now. And when I can beat Matt, like then I'll consider myself good. And then I started like really progressing with finding the right discs. I didn't throw nukes until like a year or 2 of playing where I actually had somewhat of a decent form.
Yeah.
And yeah, so all thanks to Matt Graham, here I am today.
Shout out to Matt Graham. He's doing great things. I just talked to him this week. I think the doubles league is, that's one way that I started getting more into disc golf too. I think it's a great way for newer players. Maybe you've been playing for a couple months or even a couple weeks. Find your local doubles league. People are generally very welcoming. It's a good way to get some tips each week, some things to work on. There's always people that are willing to offer little bits of advice, and it's a good way to kind of start building confidence playing with other people. I know when I first started, I was playing by myself. I was like really nervous to go have a bad shot in front of other people. But with doubles, you got a partner. And so if you have a bad shot, hopefully your partner has a good shot, but it's just kind of a good way to get more involved with disc golf.
Oh, heck yeah.
Sweet. So our second question is, you caddied for Brody Smith at Waco. That picture of you and Brody, if people didn't know it was you, now they do.
Yeah.
That picture of you caddying for Brody at Waco has been in a ton of his videos and kind of all over the internet. Kind of a daunting task to come in for this guy who is, as by disc golf standards, a disc golf celebrity, and carry the bag for him. What was that like?
Really fun. I said it actually in one of his vlogs that we did. We did this like starter pack challenge for the Brody discs, and he asked me, he was like, "What was it like caddying for me?" And I was like, "Dude, it was super fun." And I had actually watched a ton of Brody's videos for the last couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
and I like playing golf, like regular golf, casually,
Nice.
and I love watching vlogs. And so he was doing both of those. He was a really good golfer, and he was vlogging. So I was like, I'm gonna watch his videos. They seem pretty cool, and I've always loved the relationship between a golf player and their caddy. I just always thought that was one of the coolest things. And I thought caddying for him, I'd be able to kind of like have that relationship to where it was like, okay, I'm going to spend this week in Waco, obviously prepping for the tournament for myself, hanging out with Paul, who I don't get to see as, much as I want to, hanging out with all the guys on tour. And I was like, so obviously I'm going to prep for my own ways, but I also want to learn how you throw your bag, what discs you use, because I told him, I was like, look, I'm beyond happy to caddy for you if you want to caddy. And he was like, dude, that'd be awesome. Like, you sure? You're playing around early. And I was like, I would love to. I think that'd be really cool. I've done it for Paul a ton of times.
Yeah.
And I I take caddying like in a pretty fun way. Like, I want to talk about your shots. I want to talk about
It's so much
times.
fun.
Exactly. Like when Matt Graham has caddied for me in the past, Matt knows my bag inside and out. He knows how I play. Like, he literally groomed me to be a good player. He knows what kind of shots. And so you get to talk about, okay, there's a Heiser line here, or there's the Annie line here. You can flick this. I like that. I like dissecting every single shot, especially on par fours and par fives. I just think it's a really cool part of the game. And so with Brody, I knew that he was kind of like open to that because he's had that in the past with other caddies who have carried his golf bag.
Yeah.
And so there was only one shot that whole round that I would say I offered advice. We talked about it. Brody, it was hole 4, the first par 4 in the woods. He flicked a zone, hit the tree kind of on the left side where it was like, look, if you make this shot, you're going to park the hole. But if you go to the right side and throw a hyzer, you're going to be putting within 30 feet. But I was like, the right side, the hyzer is way more open. But he was like, I feel more confident throwing the zone up. And I said, you do your thing. Like, I'm only here to give you advice. Right. I support your decision either way. Like, it's your game at this point. And I think that was the one time he did hit that tree, and he said right after, he's like, Paul and I were actually talking about it, and he was like, I should have gone to the right side. I feel like now that's the more open shot. And I said, you live and you learn. I mean, that's the fun part about it. And I made a Facebook post about the Waco tournament, and I was like, I would have shot so much better if I'd taken the advice I was giving Brody.
Yeah.
And did it myself, because I was like, I don't know. I felt like I was killing it on the bag.
Yeah. I've caddied a couple times at different tournaments, and it's seriously like some of the most fun times I've had at big tournaments. I think I caddied for like Tim Barham at Ledgestone, and he had a really cool card, and it was just so cool to, especially as an amateur player, to be involved in those discussions and those kind of hole dissections, and just really kind of get the pro mindset on their rounds that you just don't get any other way other than being in that scenario.
Yeah, it's literally it's like being on a front row seat. Obviously, you're trying to do a job. Like, you gotta have fun with it, but you also gotta be super serious, because this is a way of these people's making a living. And so it's fun being on a card with Paul. Kale was on it, Drew Gibson, who was killing the front, and then Brody. And I remember Brody, he landed in bounds on the first hole, just low putt, kind of nervous. But then the second hole, he had like a 25, 30 footer for a birdie. And when he hit that birdie, dude, the crowd just like went insane. And it was awesome. And it was a really cool feeling for me, because, I just met Brody that week. We had become friends. We weren't anything, like, we were just, casual friends at that point. And then that was kind of like that round caddying for him. We just clicked when it came to that. And we just had a super good time. He was super fun. The second round, he was the card that teed off right after mine. We saw each other a couple times throughout the round, but he's super, super fun guy, super serious when it comes to actually practicing disc golf. Like, if there's anyone who's working hard right now, it's Brody and a few other people. But that dude, he wants to be a great disc golfer, and he's going to prove it when everything gets back going.
Yeah. No, that's wild, and it's really interesting to see kind of your perspective. Obviously, you have a very good relationship with Paul and Hannah, so you've seen what it looks like to play at the highest level, and kind of for all intents and purposes, you have a really interesting perspective to view and work with Brody in that sense, right? So you've been on Paul's bag, you know what it means to be, I mean, the best, and then here you are. You have your own experiences, and more or less, Brody is kind of coming into it, and he's got a physical like attributes to kill, right? And you're saying, hey, how do I bring you up to my level so we can then launch you even farther, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really, really cool opportunity you've got there. So let's talk more about you, right? So let's talk about what you've done. So you have 4 C-tier wins last year. You also were the 2019 Maple Hill AmSide tournament champion.
18. I think
2018.
2018. I typed it wrong.
2018. Sorry. Okay, my bad.
Yep.
2018, which is 4 rounds. What was that like? I know we talked about it a little bit before we started, but what was that specific experience like going through a 4-round tournament and you took it home?
It was awesome, and that tournament kind of holds the most sentimental value for me, in the sense of when I was an AM2 player, I jokingly kind of signed up for that tournament. It started on a Friday, and this was like years and years before I won it. It started on a Friday. I had just gotten out of work, and it was pouring out. And I was working at a summer camp at the time, and it was just straight up pouring. But I wanted to go watch some of the people who I became friends with play. So I went down there. It was like 3:00, and I think the last tee time was at 4:00. And I told Steve Dodge, I was like, "Hey man, I got my discs." Because he also runs the AmSide tournament. I was like, "I got my discs. I got $75. What are the chances I can play?" He was like, "Well, we've already had a couple no-shows. We've brought people off the wait list, but if you hang around, you might get a chance." And literally, the last player in the tournament who was supposed to tee off at 4:00, the last player, did not show up. And he was like, "Nick Carl, you still here?" And I was soaking wet at this point. I had no umbrella. I had like 2 towels in my bag. I was soaking wet. And anyways, he was like, "You're up." And so I was like, "Sweet, let's do it." Shot my first round, and luckily for us, about 9 holes in, the rain completely stopped, and so we had a dry, kind of like wet ground, obviously, but we had no rain coming to us on the whole back 9. I was second place out of 144 people. I was second place after the first round, and this is my AM2 days. Yeah. And I'm playing against one of my buddies who I look up to at the time, and I was just like, he was in first place. I was off by like 1 or 2 strokes, and I'm like, holy cow! And so I went home, and I'm like telling my parents, this is incredible. Anyways, I ended up finishing that year in like 7th place. I think I was on the chase card after the second round. I had never played Maple Golds, and one of the other courses that we were playing was called Highland Blues. It was another par 65 layout, just super long.
Yeah.
I'd never played either of those courses. I still barely threw over 350 feet, and everything just clicked that tournament. Like I played well. I don't even think I got rated for it. I don't remember if I was even PDGA at that time. And anyway, so now fast forward years, 2018. I started working at the job that I'm at now, and same thing. I kind of signed up for the tournament last minute, just thought, hey, why not? If I win it finally, it's a potential to play on the feature card. And how often do I get to play with, Paul had slowly became my best friend at that point over the last couple of years. And I was like, how often am I going to be able to play a tournament round with Paul? So I was like, I really started preparing for that tournament. I went and played the courses. I started practicing, played Maple Golds a ton. And after the first round, I was tied for the lead. After the second round, I was up by 5. After the third round, I was up by 10. And my parents were away that weekend. The pro side tournament was happening the next weekend. So pros had started coming in. Paul and Hannah were driving up the next night. So we were kind of like preparing the house. And I was sitting in my bed. And I was like, holy cow, I'm up by 10 points right now. I'm like 10 strokes right now. I was like, I'd have to do something very wrong to lose this. And Paul texted me. He's like, holy cow, am I reading this right? Like, you're up by 10? And I was like, yeah, like it kind of all of a sudden just happened. And so going into Maple Golds over like the first 4 holes, I had lost 5 of my strokes because it was like, I don't know. I was stressing myself out for no reason. But I told myself, I was like, the first 6 holes at Maple are the hardest holes that you'll play on the front 6, I think, of anywhere besides maybe Eureka. But if I can get by the first 6 holes with a 5-stroke lead, then I'm going to win the tournament. And I think after hole 6, I think I had taken a 3 or a 4 on it, and everyone else in the group took 5, 6, 7. And I was like, okay, now it's just kind of like, let's go into cruise control. Let's play for pars. If birdies come, I'm happy with them. But I didn't care about my rating that round. I was like 15 strokes up on the chase card at that point. I think after hole 9, I think I was back up by 8 or 9 strokes on anyone on our card. And it was kind of just like going to cruise control. Let's finish out this tournament. Hole 11, I took a birdie, which was the long par 4 down the hill. Everyone else took a 5 or more on that one. So I was like, okay, now I'm back up by 10 right now. So I have 8 more holes.
Yeah.
Let's just have some fun at this point. And so hole 14, I ended up parking it. I've aced it once when the hole actually first switched. They had the mock Xbox baskets on it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to ace this. People are here. People are filming. Why not? And I ended up going right under the basket and skipping like 5 feet from it. And so,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I try to do that now, and I still take 4s on it. It's insane. But anyway, so now end of the tournament. I was walking up hole 18. I piped my drive, threw a great second shot. I threw my third shot on the green. I was kind of like in a fun way. There was a ton of people at hole 18. It's one of the most incredible experiences at Maple Hill, is just ending on hole 18.
Mm-hmm.
I threw my upshot on the island, was trying to run the basket, was just like 5 feet off to the right. And it was the first time that people had putted out who were closer than me. They had putted out and kind of like ended their tournament. And Steve Dodge was like, and in 4th place, 3rd place, 2nd place. And then I remember him just saying, in your 2018 MVP Open Amside winner, Nicholas Carl, made my putt. And it was cool. Like the chills literally just instantly ran down my body. It was such a fun experience. Incredible trophy that I have downstairs. We have a man cave, and that's like the first thing you see when you go down there.
Nice.
It's really cool. And I'm going to kind of get like a little sobby right here, but one of the cool things about that tournament is 2 years prior to that, my cousin, who was my best friend, passed away in a motorcycle accident. And that was the last course we had played together. And I have a picture, I think it's my cover photo on Facebook still, of us on hole 8. And I remember walking on hole 8 that round and just kind of like got chills when you walk by the drop zone, because that's where that picture was taken. And it was cool. And so I dedicate that tournament to him. And then Paul and Hannah came in that night. I think it was just them staying. Oh, Tina and Eric always park their RV at my house.
Nice.
And anyways, they all came in on Sunday, and it was like a party. We got pizza that night. Everyone was so ecstatic. Paul was like, "What's up, champ?" And for Paul to say that to you is a pretty cool feeling. And
yeah.
We got to play some practice rounds together, and then play the tournament itself. And it was just like, I love the experience of, for the first round, the Amside winner playing with the pros, because very rarely is someone going to get that opportunity anywhere else. And yeah, I shot +5 in the pro round. I had one cool highlight. I birdied hole 12 when no one else did. And then I proceeded to take a 5 on hole 13. But it was just a cool experience, dude. We had a gallery. Tons of people were out there. I had buddies from high school who I haven't talked to in years. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, dude, like, I didn't know you were this good at disc golf. Will you sign my hat?" And it was just cool. It's a lot of really fun memories. And I think that's probably one of the best achievements, winning an AM tournament of my disc golf career right now. It's 140 plus people. You got to play great through 4 rounds. I think I averaged just about 1,000, which is usually what wins it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, super cool. I had great card mates all weekend. Everyone was like, "Are you finally going to win it this year?" And I was like, "I don't know. I hope so. I'm done playing it after this year." So, but yeah,
that's wild. That's amazing, and it's really interesting because, like, there is you have history with that region, you have history with those courses, so it's like it's almost magical. That's like that's your moment, right? That's your kind of coming out moment, and it's so cool to see how much it meant for you in that moment. So you mentioned if you kind of threw thousands, right around thousands around that entire tournament, you would likely win it. So as somebody who's right in that 990s, 1,000 area, what's it like for you to climb there, right? You've climbed up to there, but also what are you doing right now to make it so you hit those marks, right? So I think Waco, you had one round that was 10:25 or something like that.
Yeah. I think it was like 10:26 or something like that. But then my first round, it's funny. I was talking to my buddy Matt the other night, and we were going through just PDGA tournaments and tournaments that we've both played. And if you look, a lot of my second and third rounds at tournaments are on average like 40 points better than my first round. For some odd reason, I'm just having first round jitters. It's weird. I don't, because they don't feel like jitters, but I'm just making bad mental mistakes on the course. I'm not like, I don't know if I'm not warming up correctly the first round because I'm kind of like, I want to go into this with like a casual feeling. But being 990 rated now, after Waco, my update was from 985 to 990.
Good jump.
It's like, yeah, it's like, dude, I'm right there. I so badly want to get to that 1,000 mark because that's kind of like the next echelon of, as a local pro, and then somebody who I travel to a lot of big tournaments because I'm fortunate enough to do that. And I want to be, obviously the end game goal is to be above 1,000, and then I want to be the best that I can be. And so being right there is like, especially because this year all the tournaments are at a halt right now, and now it's like if I was 960, I don't think it'd matter as much because I'm 990 and I'm like right there. I just want to go out and play tournaments. So one thing that I've been doing to kind of do better, a lot of my second rounds come into a completely different mindset where it's like at some of the tournaments that I won back home, if I was off the lead after the first round, it was like, okay, now it's attack mode. Now we got to play aggressive. And I kind of love that aggressive feeling because when I play practice rounds, I play aggressive. I rarely practice laying up unless it's just like a super death putt into water. Other than that, I don't really lay up. I'm always kind of in attack mode in my practice rounds. So now I get a chance to do that in the tournament. And my rating always is better the second round. Like there was a ton of times where like one of the tournaments I won, I shot a 990 rated first round, and then I followed it up with a 1038 rated round. And it was just kind of like that aggressive mindset. And I don't know. I don't want to not be in the lead, but like I love that feeling of that tournament. I came back and won from the chase card, so that was pretty cool because
Nice.
no one on the lead card knew what was going on. They were all. It was a course that's just littered with OB, a lot of par fours. A lot of things can go wrong, especially it was windy that day. It was rainy, and I murdered it the second round. Like I took 1-4 on a hole where if I wasn't OB by 6 inches, I would have deuced the hole and shot a 48. Like that's how I looked at it. But it was like, and then that would have been my highest rated round. But I can't dwell on that. So.
Yeah,
I think the mindset conversation is so interesting because you hear so many pros say, really that leap for a lot of people from the 980s, 990s into that 1,000 plus. A lot of times I feel like they say two things. It's usually putting, just making one or two more putts, or just having the right mentality. And I think it's different for everybody. Some people need to come into it casually to kind of divert, some of the pressure that might be there externally or that they put on themselves. And other people, maybe like yourself, just need to come in with sort of that killer mindset. Like I'm going to come in, I'm going to be aggressive, I'm going to go for the big shots, and if you have the abilities, you can hit those shots.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to say it's easy to work on stuff about your disc golf game. Like it's not easy to work on putting because if you're just like, it's hard to work on it. It's easy to practice, but it's hard to like really get good at putting.
Yeah.
One of my biggest struggles at tournaments that I've lost or tournaments that I haven't done great at is my putting. And just recently, actually, I found a couple different hitches that I've been working with and figuring out different parts of my putting game that I can get better. And over the last 2 weeks, it's felt amazing. Like I'm outside doing putting practice and I'm like, wow, this is like I'm consistently hitting, like say before I would hit like 7 out of 10, 25 footers. And now I'm hitting like 14 out of 15. And they're all in the same spot. Like before, I would try to bring my arm down, bring it up, follow through, move my leg. And there was a ton of different moving objects. And then now I've kind of like compacted a little bit more to where my arm's just up and down on the pole the whole time. And really all I need to make sure is that my timing's correct, where I'm kind of like jumping up and then my wrist is good. Because for some reason, I know when I'm going to miss left is because I had no follow through with my wrist at all.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely been something that I've worked on a ton in off season 2.0. And it's cool because I think at Waco, I was like 90 something percent. I missed one circle, one putt and the one that I missed, it was from a knee, like 25 feet out on hole 5, I think.
Yeah.
And I hit the basket. It just wasn't like, there was very like, I probably had a 10% chance of making it. And then at Great Lakes Open last year, I was 100% from Circle 1 or Circle 1X. And it was like, I know how to putt. I just don't know how to do it every round or like every tournament. And because it's weird, like on the tour, I've been a great putter, except for Circle 2. I don't really do great there for some reason. But
Tough
then
putt.
back at home, I'm a phenomenal Circle 2 putter, but my Circle 1 putts are what's missing. It's so weird. I can't even explain it. But I've been like practicing back at home right now to try to get to that 1,000 level echelon. Is I don't have big distance like these guys do, and that's something that I'm really trying to work on right now is increasing my distance. The weather's finally getting nice here in Mass to where it's not 50 or 45, 50 degrees every day. It's starting to get into the 60s. And obviously, you're going to notice distance changes just from the way the weather is.
Hmm.
But I've started changing my form a little bit, just not same thing. I found too many wasted movements. And so now I'm trying to compact it. And I kind of have a long, lankier body. And so I'm trying to follow forms of like old school Will Schustrick, like 2015 when he had an incredible drive. I love watching Eagle McMahon throw. They just same thing. They're long people, and they have such explosiveness, fast twitch muscles, and they have such distance that it's like if I was there, I could compete more at these bigger events. Like at Maple Hill, there's not a ton of holes where you really need a ton of distance on. But when I played Great Lakes Open last year, dude, the par threes are like they say 380 uphill, but it's like playing 470.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah. Par three.
how do I get to that without putting from 90 feet? Like I remember the one birdie, it's just like straight uphill hole. And I saw some dude on my card park it, and I was like, that's insane. I was like 80 short and had to throw the longest jump that I could just to get a deuce on that hole. And I was like, that's like a 1 in 10 chance. And so one
Yeah.
thing that I've been trying to do is work on my distance, take more videos, talking with Simon. He lives around here now, so we get to hang out every so often and just figuring out how can I develop even, dude, I'd love to add 75 feet of distance within the next 2 months. If I can do that, I would feel a lot more confident going into a ton of these bigger courses. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's kind of like what I'm trying to do to get to the 1,000 rated mark right now.
Yeah. No, I think that's really interesting. Like it's kind of compartmentalizing your own experience and then also trying to learn from those people that you have access to, which is like Nick Carl, as the person you are, you have like immense access to all of these people, right? When some of your best friends are Hannah and Paul, you live right next to Simon, you like you hung out with Brody for a week. It's really interesting kind of your place in the disc golf world. And it's, I mean, honestly, it's one to be jealous of, but we have to ask. Yeah, sometimes, but we've got to ask because you do have some of these famous friends. What's it been like from like so? I think I heard at one point that you got Hannah into the sport way back in the day or something like that, or you and your group of friends. What's it been like to kind of go from, yeah, I love playing disc golf, it's a cool thing, and then all of a sudden one of your best friends, and then even more of your best friends are like the biggest thing in the sport. What's that like journey been like for you?
So it's been awesome. It's been super cool. I'll never say I would have it no other way. Like I'm incredibly blessed with the friends that I have right now in the disc golf community and even outside the disc golf community. Because I first met Hannah and I was just getting into disc golf, and I was singing. I'm a horrible singer. My mom made me do it. I was singing in a Christmas choir at our church, and Hannah's extended family, her aunt, uncle, and cousin were also in the singing group. Her cousin and I were really good friends, and then my parents are best friends with Hannah's aunt and uncle. Like they've gone on vacations together. They're just super great friends. Anyway, so we were singing our Christmas musical. Hannah came to it to watch it with her parents, and I think her brother and sister came, and her uncle Dave introduced her and I, and Dave was like, "Hey, this is Nick Carl," and she's like, "Oh my gosh, the infamous Nick Carl," because I was super close with their family. We were all really good friends. You know, I love them. Same thing, they love me. Like we're all in a band together right now. I play keyboard for a 70s and 80s cover band, and so
Nice.
like that's the extent of our relationship. Like we're just all really close. Anyway, so I met Hannah. And we instantly just like jived. Like we were super cool. Like we had the same personality, loved sports, loved hanging out with the people that we hung out with. And as she said, kind of in her interviews, she was dating one of our friends in my friend group, a close friend of mine, and they were dating. We all started playing disc golf together. We all had super fun with it. Her and I hung out all the time. She came over and hung out with my parents, just even when I wasn't around here. And then she went off to college. She kept playing disc golf. I kept playing disc golf. And that was kind of like the thing to do. When she would come back home, we made sure we went out disc golfing. Even if it was 10 degrees out on a winter day, we spent time disc golfing with each other and, most of our friend group. But Hannah, I've known her for, let's see, I'm 25 now. I've probably known her for 12 or 13 years or something like
Well,
that. And she's just like, her and Paul are my best friends. She's my best friend. I would do anything for them. And to watch how we've all kind of like where we've come in the disc golf world is pretty incredible. It's
yeah.
fun. Thinking back in 2012, 2013, when I first started playing, I watched Paul shoot 45 at Maple Hill. I was that kid holding up the scorecard, watching, switching the numbers on it. And I was so in awe because every single time I had bets with people as we were watching the round. Paul was like 55 feet out on hole 11, putting with, I think, orange McPro AVRs. And I told my friend, I was like, I bet you $1 it's going in. I actually took down the sign, started changing the number because when he putted it, it was just dead center. It was insane. And so I was super. Paul was my favorite pro when I got into the sport.
Yeah.
I loved his winning attitude towards everything. His personality was cool. And so I asked him actually that after that round, my buddy Kyle and I went up and asked him, we were like, what's better, this round or the 17 down, 10, 11, 32 rated round at Fountain Hills? He's like, this round was awesome, but that round was better in the sense that he was going for the win with that round. At Maple Hill, he had that tournament in the bag after the first couple of holes, and he just murdered the course after that. So that was my first time actually ever talking to Paul.
Nice.
Fast forward to 2015 or 2014, 2015, I was attending a Bible college up in New York called Word of Life. And I wasn't going to be home for the summer because one of the things that you do when you go to school there is you work on one of their summer programs. So I was the head chef at the ranch. And so we had kids from middle school age just before they go into high school, and elementary school kids as well. And so I used to cook 3 meals a day for them. Super awesome. I loved it, but I was not playing disc golf that whole year. 2014 and 2015, I completely took it off. Didn't even bring my bag to New York with me because I just had no time. I played college basketball for the school. So every weekend was filled with basketball tournaments. And then in the summertime, I was working on the ranch. My birthday was in August. 4th of July weekend came up. The MVP Open had just happened. I unfortunately missed it. I wasn't able to go back home and watch it. And that's when Hannah was starting to really get into following Paige Pierce and following the different pros and loved the competitive side of it. And she visited me when I was up in New York. Surprise visit, just came out of nowhere. And up on my wall right there is actually the putter that Paul used, the McPro AVR. It says "Happy Birthday, Nick" on it. It was the putter that he used that tournament, and that is one of the ways, if not the way, that Hannah and Paul actually started talking. And so we
Nice.
always joke around. That's why I was in his wedding party, is because I'm the reason.
That's wild.
That's one of the reasons, though. But anyways, that disc, tons of sentimental value to it because it's from my best friend and it's signed by Paul McBeth. And that was like, holy cow. So like 2 months later, in August, my buddy had a wedding. And so I was able to take the weekend off. I came back home and Hannah came over to visit me, visit my parents. And we're all just hanging out. And then all of a sudden she starts FaceTiming someone. And I'm like, who are you FaceTiming? Like, that's kind of rude. We're sitting at the dinner table. Like, what are you doing? And all of a sudden I hear hello. And you can just tell it's that voice. And I'm like, why does that sound like Paul? And she's like, Nick, I have something to show you. And then she shows me her phone. She's like, this is Paul McBeth at Pittsburgh Worlds. And I was like, oh my God, like, what do you mean? Like, why are you talking to him? And she, then we started getting into the story about how they've been talking for a while and, they're really hitting it off. And then August 15th came up, my birthday. I was out to eat with some friends and I got a message on Facebook from Paul, a friend request, and a message, happy birthday, Nick. Like, can't wait to meet you, dude. And then 2016, Paul came for the tournament. Him and Nate drove their truck and trailer. They stayed at Hannah's parents' house. Hannah and Kona stayed at my house. And that was actually the first time that I legitimately met Paul, met Nate, had conversations with them. We had a cookout at Hannah's family's house when they were living up here in Mass. And that was our friendship, man. Like, that's how it started. It's super cool. And then all of a sudden, like, I remember sitting there that night, and I was like, I'm sitting here eating a burger with Paul McBeth and Nate Sexton. Like,
Yeah.
these are the McBeast Challenge guys, the McBeast Diaries. Like, this dude's got a Firebird after him. This is like, it was kind of
Yeah.
mind blowing at that point.
Yeah.
And then we just became really good friends. And then he invited me to move down to Virginia, live in his apartment with him. And yeah, that's just
That's
kind
wild.
of all happened. Yeah, it happened so quick.
It's
just like
it's really
it's life.
interesting to hear it from your perspective too, right? Because like
Yeah.
obviously like they've got their stories that I mean they've told 100 times, but it's so cool because you were more or less just like you're like, yeah, this is because of me. Cool, no worries.
yeah, that's always the joke. Whenever I tell people, they're like, "Wait, how do you know Paul and Hannah?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm the reason they're like."
Yeah, it's all you. It's all you.
No.
So that's so
funny.
cool. So I think Wes.
Fate would have had them together. At
Yeah,
one point,
probably.
if it
Probably.
wasn't for me.
Okay, Wes, what do you got for the end of the interview?
We got some rapid fires. I'm bringing a couple of my old favorite questions back. We've got a few of these questions we actually used in the Paul McBeth interview. So if you've watched it all recently,
It's been a while.
you might have heard some of these. I was going to add one thing. It's so funny to hear your side of it too, because we had Hannah on for her interview, obviously, and she
I
kind
was
of
just
tells.
watching that one actually before I got into this because I was like, wait, what questions did they ask? And so
Yeah.
She,
She kind of tells the other side of the story. So if you want her side of the story, be sure and check that one out. But we got 10 rapid fires. We're going to roll through them. Pretty quick answers. Are you ready?
Let's do it. I'm down.
All right. One pro, doesn't have to be Discraft, that you think we should interview.
Simon Lazat. You and I talked about that, but Simon would be an incredible interview person. Dude, super
so good.
cool. He's putting out all the awesome content. But yeah, Simon.
Yeah, would love to get Simon. Ice cream or cake?
Oh, ice cream all the way. I actually don't like cake at all.
Really?
I hate
enough.
the icing.
Your favorite one disc round choice if you're playing Maple Hill?
Oh, Buzz.
Buzz? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Your favorite state you traveled to outside of Massachusetts?
That's gonna take me a second. Hold on. Michigan or Georgia? One of those two. I really enjoyed Michigan. It was super cool, and it was cool because it didn't get dark till like 9:30, which was mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
Georgia, I went for Worlds in 2017. W.R. Jackson, one of my top 5 favorite courses, and so one of those two states.
Dope.
The number of world titles you think Paul will have before he retires?
All right, let's see. Is that 5 now? I want to say over double digits. If I'm going to put a number on it, I'm going to say 11.
Ooh, I like it. I think he said 8 when we had him on.
Wow.
I think 11.
This year, next year, whatever year in the future, one Disc Golf Pro Tour or NT that you really want to win?
MVP Open.
Yeah.
I want to be the first player to win the AM side and then win the pro side. I think
that would be sick.
Be one of the coolest things that I could ever do as a kid from Massachusetts.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. This was one of my old favorite questions. If we take the McBeth brothers, obviously you probably know John pretty well.
Yeah.
Too, versus the Yulee brothers. Yulee's been putting out some good content, and Pete is a pretty good player.
Pete's a 1,000 rated player.
He's a 1,000 rated player. We take McBeast brothers versus the Yulee brothers. Who's winning?
I got to take the McBeast brothers just because John's awesome. He's got that lefty advantage, and he is a good player, no doubt. And, but Paul McBeth is just incredible. And so when he's fired up and actually playing a legitimate round, it's hard to beat him.
I think I just so hope this happens. I love asking that question because I want to keep some fuel to that fire. It'd be such a cool battle.
I think that'd be some sweet content when all this coronavirus stuff ends. I think that'd be a sweet video.
On Discraft.
Yeah.
One place that you want to travel anywhere in the world. It can be your local restaurant. It could be a different country when this quarantine stuff's all over.
I've always wanted to travel to Japan. I love the language that they speak, and I love the sound of it. It's just kind of cool. But then I found out murder hornets are from there. And no, I'm just kidding. I really want to go to Japan. I love the architecture. The land looks beautiful. That's my dream place to visit one day.
Maybe make it out. Maybe make it out to Japan Open next year.
Either Japan Open or European Open. Those are things that I'm saving up for and figuring out which one I really want to do. If I am to pick one though, if Japan Open happens, I'm probably going to pick that one because that has always I've wanted to go to Japan since I was like 15 years old.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's definitely on my list.
Shout out to as the article's going all over the internet, Åland or something. You're right between Finland and Sweden. They got like
Åland?
16
Yeah.
courses on those
I haven't read the
archipelago.
article yet, but I've been seeing everyone post about it. I might have to read it, but it sounds insane.
Dude,
It
it's
sounds like
nuts. It's
a disc golfer's
insane.
dream.
Shout out to Disc Golf Park and those guys. That's incredible.
Awesome stuff. Scale of 1 to 10, how awesome is Paul's course that he's building?
If you like hills, no, I'm just kidding. There's a ton of elevation changes. Scale of 1 to 10, it's gonna be like a solid 9.
Nice.
Really, like, yeah, we scoped out a ton of the holes and like did a ton of cleaning work. Paul, her father, Hannah's father-in-law, and I did. And I think their hole 18 there is a sick hole. I actually posted it on the Underground page, just doing a hello to everyone.
Yeah.
And just off the drive, it's like this 800-foot par 4. It's sick. It's gonna be a really, really fun course. Anyone who plays it is gonna enjoy it. It's just
Nice.
It's gonna be sweet.
We expect nothing less. So this is a fun one to go out on. We've got you, and we've got Hannah against the McBeast. Best shot doubles. Paul's playing singles. Who's winning, and by how many strokes?
Hannah and I by 2.
Oh, by 2!
Oh, wow.
Walking away.
He says like he knows. He says like he knows.
Oh yeah. I guarantee it.
Like
Hannah,
maybe it's happened.
Yeah, Hannah. No, I wish. Hannah is. I've beaten Paul once in one practice round. He hates it when I bring it up, but it was a practice round at MVP Open last year. We were just prepping for the tournament. Him, Adam, and I shot my best round ever on goals, which was a 53. He shot a 54. Adam shot a 55. And am I ever going to do that again? I hope so. Am I going to do it anytime soon? Probably not. But no, Hannah's one of my favorite people to play with, and so I just think we'd have a super good time. And she kills it. She's an insanely good putter inside of 30 feet. Like, I love watching her putt.
Yeah.
And I think we would do really well together. So us by 2. We'll make it happen one day when I'm back down in Virginia.
Yeah, it'd be a fun video. Yeah. Nice. Well, that's all of our rapid fire questions. We want to give you a quick minute or two here to thank anybody that you want to thank. Let people know what you got going on, and then we'll roll up out of here.
Obviously, thanks to you and Bob Julio just for the sponsorship on the Underground team. It's been nothing but awesome. Just a huge blessing in my life. Shout out to the McBeths, obviously, for letting me stay in Virginia with them. And, I go down there as much as I can. They're super great. Shout out to Discraft, Bob Julio. Matt Graham and I are doing some cool things in the works. So shout out to him. Be on the lookout for some more content for you guys to watch.
Nice.
Shout out to Foundation. They're my other sponsor. I'm in a couple videos with them. And then, that's pretty much just shout out to everyone in the disc golf world. Let's get through this whole pandemic that's going on right now. Be safe, be happy. Stay active, though. Like, it's very easy right now if you're laid off to kind of like take a day as a lazy day. Just don't get up, look at some Instagram people who do some workouts. Like, I found this one dude on Instagram who does all these stretching, mobility stuff, and then also at-home workouts, and it's been incredible. I've actually been able to stay active during all this.
Nice.
And so shout out to Maple Hill as well. They just opened their course back up at tee times, and so I can finally play some legitimate disc golf.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Again, thank you so much. And Wes, there is one more thing to do at the end of the day.
Make that putt.
There we go.